Hi, today we're going to have a talk with Areti around adopting AI, cloud governance and those kind of things. So I've met Areti at Microsoft user groups around the country. Recently the last one was in April where Areti did an AI talk. She's been working in D365 Power Platform in the industry for 15 years and does a lot of work with the community. So I attended one of the events that we sponsor, which is a South Coast user group. Down in Southampton, and Areti and Chris Kay did another talk on that day as well, so we're going to get him on as well. But Areti's talk was really good, it was really interesting, everyone was engaged. Unfortunately, we won't be able to see her dancing around for this presentation. We might do. But yeah, so I'll hand over to Areti to talk to us about AI and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get cracking.
Thank you, Mitesh. Yes, I did a lot of dance movements apparently during the presentation, which was news to me. So that's
Fantastic.
great. I do not promote my dance routine enough. Clearly, I should. Thank you very much for having me. It was great to have a chat with you after the session, and it's great that you felt like it was worth sharing the knowledge and sharing the information around AI adoption and AI trends and all of that good stuff. The world of AI that we are all talking about at the moment. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Areti. I've been involved with Dynamics 365 and more recently the Power Platform for over 15 years. I'm currently head of professional services at a Microsoft partner called Telefonica Tech. And I head up effectively the delivery of D365 and Power Platform projects within that sector. Previous to that, I was a solutions architect. So although I don't really do the building of solutions anymore, and I look after the people that do, I'm still very much heavily involved in the tech. And AI is one of those areas that everyone's talking about at the moment. And I approach it in a bit of a different way. I look at the adoption side of it and what's coming up in the future that could affect adoption or we need to take into account when we're looking at elements of adoption. So that's what we'll talk about today.
Right, thank you very much.
Wow,
Shall we
you're
flip off the slides? Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to say as well. So apart from obviously my role in as someone in delivery for a Microsoft partner, we obviously love the Microsoft community. We both met through the Microsoft community, and I head up the Reading user group and the National London user group for the Dynamics 365 and Power Platform user groups. You can see the website there, so do visit if you want to have a look at what we're all about. We have a number of user groups across the UK, and we've got evening events and national events happening throughout the year across various locations. So have a look there. All of our events are on the website, and we use Meetup as well. And if anyone listening wants to speak, we're always looking for speakers as well. So you can go to our speaker form, which is the website, and then /speak. Then you can actually put in your session and select the user groups you could speak at, and we will get in touch. So if any of that is of interest to you, or if you're interested in user groups in general or the UK community in general, let me know. I'm always happy to have a chat with people on anything Microsoft community related. Okay. Enough.
Question.
Oh yeah, go on.
Where are these user groups that you do these D365 Power Platform?
They are across the UK. So we've
Okay.
got a number of locations around the UK. So obviously you've got the one in London, one in Reading that I mentioned. We've got one in Birmingham, in Cambridge, Manchester has an all-day event and an evening event. Newcastle, we call the Northeast, Southampton, Bristol, and we have a virtual one as well that happens every few months, and more to come.
Excellent.
So yeah, lots of different locations there for people.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much for that. And yeah, anyone interested, check those websites out, or check that website out. And we'll switch over to your talk.
That's great, thank you. So this is a bit of a shortened version of the full talk, which is about 45 minutes, but we'll give you the key takeaways, I think it's fair to say, of what was discussed. And if you want to learn more, do get in touch with me as well. So we're talking about adopting AI and particularly what the challenges are with AI and how can you set yourself and your organization up to make the most of it at the moment. So if we're not connected on LinkedIn and you're listening, do scan the QR code and let's connect, particularly if you're interested in knowing all about things that are AI, Microsoft, user groups. I'm also a mentor for a Women in Tech mentorship program as well that is focused on the Power Platform called Women in Power. And obviously an AI enthusiast and explorer. So if you're interested in that kind of thing popping up in your LinkedIn feed, let's connect. So what are we going to talk about? First of all, we'll look at what AI tools and options there are right now in Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform and kind of the Microsoft stack. What does it then mean to be ready from an AI readiness perspective? And then if you don't have an AI strategy, what is an AI strategy? Why do you need one? And we'll talk a little bit about governance structures as well, and what kind of governance structures you may want to put in place. And we'll end with a little bit of future predictions. So what Gartner in particular is predicting for AI in general, not necessarily in our kind of Microsoft ecosystem, but more broadly, and what the future might look like and what we need to look out for up to 2030. And then a bit of Q&A between myself and Mitesh. See what the key things that piqued your interest are from all of that.
I think the first time I saw you was you were doing a talk on women in tech as well. It was really good. How to,
Yes.
why there are not that many women in tech, and what can we do to encourage them and keep them in industry. That was really, really interesting. So
Yeah,
that was
thank
the
you.
first time I saw your talk. It's really good.
Yeah, definitely. All about diversity and inclusion and having more women in tech if we can, and how we can support them. Yeah, I think it was called the reasons we don't have women in tech and the reasons they leave the industry as well.
That's
But
right.
maybe
Yeah,
that's a topic for another day,
yeah, we can do
another
that one. Yeah.
episode, another episode. So let's talk about AI tools then and options. So what is it like at the moment being in the Microsoft ecosystem? Well, it's a little bit like this. We just want to continue using what we've always been using, and we are just being told to use Copilot for everything, which is all fun and games. But obviously, that in seriousness, there is a lot of different AI tools out there. So let's go through them. So first of all, you've got Copilots that are the UI of AI, as Satya Nadella has often said in keynotes, and the Microsoft marketing team have done very well there, the UI for AI. They are out of the box Copilots. So we're talking here about the ones that come out of the box with the various elements of the stack. You can build your own in Copilot Studio. You can customize it. It's very quick to introduce AI in that way. And it's a managed service. And did you know that a third of the code that they use is actually written by AI? It's AI code. So that was a very interesting one for me. I did not know this. So this is the entry point, so to speak. Microsoft Copilots that are available across the different parts of the stack are the first entry point. If you then go beyond that, you've got options like the more specialized systems. But before we talk about that, there is also this confusion that sometimes we have around what is a copilot and what is an agent, because at the moment we're talking a lot about agents and a lot about copilots, and sometimes people refer to copilots and agents as one thing, but there is a big differentiation between them. So copilots are augmenting humans. So they are personal assistants and they are based on our work content, whereas agents do not need a human. They are systems in their own right, effectively, that can work on behalf of a team, a person, a function, a business unit, and they can actually take action. It's not just about helping a human. They can trigger actions and knowledge in their own right that can then be used by other agents. It all becomes very interesting. We'll talk about what that looks like in a second as well. But it's important to differentiate between what's an agent and what's a copilot. So that's the kind of the first entry to it. Then if you want to go a bit further than that, and then you would be going forward and you would be looking at effectively customizing things a little bit more. So you would be looking at things like Azure AI Services. And Azure AI Services are a way to use pre-built and out-of-the-box APIs and models to then introduce AI potentially. So it's all about customizing and controlling what you're using. You would be looking at code-first development in that case, and they are integrated with a lot of different elements of the stack as well, like Visual Studio and GitHub, all good stuff. Most are free, but pricing is based on the number of transactions you send. So make sure, if that is the kind of thing you're starting to get into, that you're paying close attention to that. If you then move a step further, you will go to things like Azure Foundry. And Azure Foundry is all about a kind of an enterprise level gray solution that allows you to create your own Gen AI models, basically. So this is where you're looking at the kind of a pro code version of this. And I do have animations, which is why the slides look a little bit strange. But hey, we'll learn for next time. So you actually get, as you can see here, the elements of Azure Foundry include Azure OpenAI Service and a lot of the the AI services in general. So it's a very heavy customization tool and option that you would be looking at using kind of the full kind of dev stack to create your own models. But very, very interesting. So it's important to remember there's not just about Copilots, there's other things on there that you can build on. And if you look at this as a kind of continuum of no code on one side and code first on the other, you've got your out-of-the-box agents. So Copilots, Teams, Dynamics 365, these are aimed at business users. Then you've got your maker-focused solutions, which is all about Copilot Studio. And then you've got dev-focused solutions like Copilot Studio, Azure AI Studio, Azure AI Services, all of that good stuff. So there is a spectrum of AI options out there that you can use. What does that mean for the future? Well, you're going to have a human being that is interacting with a Copilot or Copilot Studio rather than any other kind of software system or UI. And that Copilot and Copilot Studio layer will then be interacting in the background with a agent ecosystem and automation potentially off the back of that, that is controlled by an AI control system. And we'll come back to that at the end. And the idea is, as you can see there from the call from Satya, that they are building a very rich agentic world, a tapestry of AI agents. I love that word, a tapestry, acting on behalf of us in our work and life across teams, business process, and even organizations. So that's what we are building towards, is an agentic world. So let's talk then about AI readiness. So what does it mean to be AI ready? Well, how do you know if your organization is ready? There is a great adoption kind of readiness wizard Microsoft have created. You can see the link there. And that is all about asking you questions in those 5 areas you see there: organizational culture, business strategy, AI strategy and experience, AI governance, security, and technology and data strategy. They see those as the key areas where you need to have an element of readiness. What is interesting about this is that there's only a couple of questions that are asked of you in each section that you see here on the slide. But what is interesting is the wording of the answers, because the answers that you have available are bullet points. There are 5 bullet points to choose from, and they effectively show you the journey that you have to go through as an organization for each of these things. And it shows you effectively where you might be likely to start and where you're likely to end. So that is all very interesting to have a look at, regardless of whether you want to fill it in or not. But it effectively gives you a score at the end, and it gives you guidance on what to do next and how you can get ready for adopting AI, or how you can improve your adoption if you're already on your journey to introducing AI. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely do. It's quite a good one. And this is what we mean to be ready. So you can see from the questions there: do you know what your data sources are? Do you have security protocols about protecting your data? Do you have the right skills and experience to decide whether you're building models or you're buying models? What is the right thing to do? And how do you identify what model is best in the first place? Do you have your use cases? Do you know what problems you're trying to solve with AI and why AI is the answer to those problems? Is it all aligned to your business strategy and what you're trying to achieve as an organization? That kind of thing. So those are all questions you need to consider in order to identify how ready you are to introduce the technology as an organization. Which brings us then to the strategy. So strategy is a word that's thrown around quite a bit and means different things to different people. But here what we really mean is an overarching view of why you're introducing AI to the organization and what you're trying to achieve with it. And specifically, we're talking about identifying what AI opportunities you are going to be focused on and why. So for example, you may be looking at automated agents as one of the AI opportunities. It's one of many AI trends, and we'll talk about AI trends in a bit. So what AI opportunities are you looking to take advantage of? That's something your strategy should focus on. How ready are you as an organization, and what are you going to introduce in your organization to be ready? How are you going to measure how effective your AI solutions being implemented are? What objectives are you trying to achieve with introducing them? How are you going to identify whether you made the right choice and that return on investment as well? How are you going to implement AI? And we'll talk a bit about tech debt and AI being a very quick technology to become tech debt. So how are you looking to implement models? How are you going to keep them up to date? What is your plan for implementation? And your data, you can't get away from that. Do you have the right data in the right places? How are you going to decide what data you're going to use for what models and so on? And also the models themselves, especially if you're going to be creating your own models. Are you going to have infrastructure supporting them? What will that look like? and also the skills and experience you might need for that, the expertise, and how are different teams going to need to collaborate, and also how are you going to monitor and adapt all of those things, to know that the model is being used and it's being useful, and how are you going to change them over time. What's your plan around that? And of course, particularly if you're looking at introducing AI, whether you're creating it or purchasing it, are you using AI in an ethical way? Are you implementing AI responsibly and in line with legislation? Because we've got the EU AI Act coming into effect as well. It came into effect in February, but it's in phased implementation. So by August next year is when it applies to general use AI. So we need to be very aware of that as well, the legislation side of things, and your strategy should be covering that. So definitely, if you don't have an AI strategy, now is a very good time to be thinking about all these things and looking to put one in place. If you do not have one, don't worry. The majority of organizations, I don't think, do. I'm still to come across someone that comes to my sessions that says they do have one, but a lot of them are a work in progress. And that's the important thing to remember about AI strategy, is that it shouldn't be a we've done it once and we never look at it again. You should be reviewing this often to make sure it's still relevant and it still applies. Which then brings us to your governance processes and how are you actually governing your AI strategy and your AI solutions and your AI implementation. And when it comes to governance, there's some general good practices. So making sure there is guidance resources available, both for your employees, but also for those developing AI solutions in your organization. So development standards effectively for AI. When can they use AI models? When should they and when shouldn't they? Having an AI inventory. If you start introducing AI, you need to know what models you're using, where, what data are those models using, and making sure that you understand the use cases for them as well and why they're being used and how they're being used. There's nothing worse than not knowing what AI is in your organization. And trust me when I say that if you don't think you're using AI in your organization right now, your employees are bringing their own AI to work. You just don't know it. So also look for shadow AI. So definitely have an AI inventory in place because it will help you with legislation and compliance later on as well. And also the tools for monitoring, both for monitoring the models are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and making sure that there isn't anything weird and wonderful being done, but also that they are being used and that they are being useful. And then, of course, the security and compliance element, cyber attacks. I think it's only going to become more frequent, not less frequent. And also the third-party sharing of AI data is something to keep in mind there. If an AI model is free to use, your data is probably being used in some weird, wonderful way. So definitely consider security and compliance before making any decisions on it. So those are good practices for any technology, really. They apply to AI, but they apply to any new technology you might be looking to introduce. When we're talking about structures specifically, who the human beings would be that would be monitoring this and creating the strategies and so on. Some organizations have an AI office now or an AI council. Some have an oversight committee. Big organizations have chief AI officers or ethics boards. But whatever happens, you need to effectively, or whatever you call it, you need to have a team of ideally a minimum of someone as an executive sponsor for introducing AI to the organization, someone for change management, someone from IT to enable the use of AI from a technical perspective, infrastructure perspective, data perspective, and so on, and someone from risk management to actually help identify those use cases and the best way to move forward and assess the risk of the decisions being made. So whatever you call it, you should at least have representatives from those four areas in your organization. And have any AI requirement come through that board or council or office to actually be reviewed and analyzed and evaluated. So don't skip the governance. The other thing as well is around, my slides are not moving. I will try to move them on. Mitesh, can you move them on?
Yeah, I should try as well. Just while that's going, so all these roles, IT enablement, executive sponsor, and risk management, they're not. Are we expecting those not necessarily to be a single person, right?
No, it's not. It wouldn't be. The chances are you would actually have four different people. You could have there could be roles that are shared. So you could have your executive sponsor could also be doing risk management, for example, and so on. But in reality, you should,
For a large organization, that would work.
Yeah, the more people you can have, as in no more than four, you don't want to have too many too many chefs, but you
No,
do want to have a representative amount of people. You don't want it to be the decision of one person or two people. You want to have enough people from
no,
different perspectives because that
yeah.
helps.
It's
Yeah,
similar to
definitely.
cloud center of excellence type thing as well.
Yeah, exactly. Very
The
much so.
QAs, the planners, and the governance and security teams. So yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So I think the slides have gone, but that's fine.
Is that the? I see the future predictions now. Is that where you was hoping to
Yeah,
go next?
we can move on to that. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's where we're
Just
moving
check that.
to.
Yeah, that's where we are
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
So let's talk about future predictions. This is a famous quote that I like about where we are at the moment with future predictions. So from Paul Valery, who was a poet, he said, "The trouble with our times is that the future is not what it used to be," and I think that's very accurate. It was very accurate back in the 40s, but it's also accurate now. So we used to think that the future was the Power Platform. And before that, we used to think the future was Dynamics 365. And before that, we thought the future was CRM. And it all changes. So now we've got an agentic world coming our way. So future predictions are all about what will the world of AI more generally, not just in the Microsoft ecosystem, but more generally, what are we likely to see in terms of AI solutions in the next 5 years? Shall we take a look?
Yes, please.
So the first thing here is this is all a lot of information that Gartner has provided in the last kind of 12 months or so around where Gen AI and AI in general is heading, and they provide these graphs that show you how technology is evolving effectively. So the idea for anyone that hasn't seen this before is that any technology starts from an innovation perspective, it becomes a new technology. We get very, very excited and get to the peak of our inflated expectations, and then we realize there's limits and we fall very quickly into the trough of disillusionment, as they call it. So we get a little bit disappointed that it's not as good as the hype suggested. And eventually we identify all of the great things about it and we start using it in a productive way. So this is where Gen AI is at the moment, and all of the Gen AI technologies. And the main thing to be aware of here is that although we think of Gen AI as the only AI thing, there's other AI trends out there. But within Gen AI, there's a load of different AI solutions you see here being worked on. So you've got things like AI augmented software engineering, you've got vector databases, transfer learning, multimodal Gen AI, loads of really cool things. And you can see some of them are less than 2 years away, some are 2 to 5 years away, some are 5 to 10 years away from getting to productivity, from getting to a point where they're actually productive. So not all of these are going to move as quickly. This is predictions as well. So there is an element of guessing as to how these things are going to move and how quickly they're going to move. But you can see here that we talk about Gen AI, but Gen AI is 100 different things to 100 different people potentially. And if you move ahead as well to broader AI trends, so this is AI trends in general, you can see here that there is even more things. So computer vision is now on the plateau of productivity, and we got very excited about that back when it came out. So computer vision is very much something that we expect now. Intelligent applications, cloud AI services, we don't even think about it anymore. So all of these have become a way of life. We don't think of them as new. But if you look at Gen AI, that's at kind of the peak of inflated expectations coming down to disillusionment. You've got synthetic data, which we'll talk about in a second, coming down as well. And then you've got the elements that Microsoft is focusing on, multi-agent systems, autonomic systems. These are the ones that are 5 to 10 years away from productivity, but Microsoft are already gambling on their strategy for these things to be the next big thing, very much so. You see quantum AI there as well, more than 10 years. That's the next thing that's going to disrupt this massively. Artificial general intelligence as well. So all of these things are coming, and you see all of the other ones that are 2 to 5 years away. Why is this important? Well, at the moment, we think about Gen AI as the only thing, or we think about copilots and agents as the only thing. But it's important from an adoption perspective to be aware that lots of other cool things are going to come behind them that are going to affect the decisions that we make. So we need to be aware that things are moving very fast and things are changing very fast. So it's very much worth keeping an eye on the macro AI omics, for lack of a better word.
And
So
that's
let's talk.
changed since we saw the presentation in April quite a bit already,
Yes,
hasn't it?
yeah,
So
absolutely,
quite a
yeah.
few
So
new things already.
yeah, definitely, and the predictions as well. So there's more predictions being made as things change and as
Yeah.
Gartner get data. So yeah, again, apologies for the slide layout problem there, but let's look at the next 5 years, and these are the main ones that I think are quite interesting. So 2025, which is where we are right now, the prediction is that 30% of Gen AI projects are going in the bin, and they're going in the bin because of reasons that probably people are already aware of. There is not enough good data to make the AI models useful. There isn't enough risk controls. There is a high cost of ownership and getting higher, and the value that they're bringing is very unclear. So a lot of them are being abandoned. At the same time, though, in terms of companies using AI, we are seeing a lot of use of AI in organizations that are doing development and testing, and they are very much using AI in their development and testing strategies. The other thing that's happened, of course, this year is the legislation has come into effect or has started coming into effect. So there's going to be a much more focus on the AI legislation as time goes on as well in the coming years. But this year is where the law is starting to catch up with the technology as well. If we fast forward a year to potentially where we're going to be in 2026, then we have the apps that are being created using AI to give us more personalized experiences. And what we're talking about here is, for example, at the moment, if you open an app where you buy clothes, for example, you see the whole store and you have to search for the thing you want. Potentially by next year, you will be able to have an AI assistant that only shows you the clothes that fit you based on your size, your height, what you have bought previously. So it's a lot more data driven and based on the things that you are more likely to buy, and it's a personalized experience that makes it all much more quick and efficient for you. So that is something that we're going to see a lot more of, personalized adaptive experiences. The other thing as well is synthetic customer data. So for those that don't know what that is, so it came up in the chart earlier, synthetic customer data is data that is based on actual real data where you've got personal identifiable information for a customer, for example, but it creates fake versions of that customer or that sensitive data. And the benefit of that is that you don't have to break data relationships. You don't have to remove data from the data set that makes it less useful. You don't have to worry about consent and so on, because the data in itself is fake. So if it got leaked, for example, you wouldn't be able to actually identify a human being out of that information. But you can use it to predict trends and do analysis without having those issues of reduced or redacted data. So it is very useful. This is likely to become very, very big in the next year and more because it is a safer way to use data effectively, particularly for Gen AI and for models. So definitely something that's coming up, synthetic data being used a lot more. We use it, for example, at Telefonica Tech for looking at customer trends. We use it for doing testing. If our customers only have a very small subset of test data and we need a lot more data to test something, we would create synthetic data out of that data and so on. So there's a lot of great use cases for that, and it's going to become much bigger in the next couple of years. The other thing as well,
use case. I was just going to say,
yes.
Areti, because what we see is we see a lot of people using or trying to use production data in the test systems, which is never a good idea, and it's simply because they don't have the test data. So if they use Gen AI to generate it, then that's going to save a lot of people some time, get better testing, and help them be a lot more secure as well.
Yeah, definitely,
That's a really good use
100%.
case.
Yeah, it is, and then I think we'll see more and more of that. Yeah, for sure. And this one around the software engineers, so I think this is happening right now, but they're just too busy answering surveys to tell us that they are. So the AI coding assistants being used by software engineers or developers, I think they are a key group that will very likely use a new shiny tool and try to break it. So I think that is happening right now. I think the majority of devs are actually using AI coding assistants already. Yeah, so that number is very much on the rise now, and of course we've got things like vibe coding coming around as well. That's a whole other episode altogether on vibe coding, I think. For those of you that don't know the term, so vibe coding is all about basically using prompts to write code rather than writing code as a developer. And there can be problems with that because if you don't have the skills and experience to look at the code and analyze it and make sure it's the right code, you could end up introducing code that could be doing what you wanted to, but then other things as well. So yeah, an interesting change in development there and what it means to be a developer as well.
Even infrastructure. We do infrastructure as code these days, so we use that to help generate our code. It doesn't always give us what we want, and sometimes it even works. But yeah, it's getting better.
Exactly. So if we fast forward another year, then 2027, we're looking at CRM users particularly. So this is the broader term of CRM, reducing their screen time by 50% because of agents and the fact that we have assistants and enhanced GUIs and things like that, that will allow us to spend time away from screens because we are not the ones having to do the doing anymore as we do now. There will be agents doing things for us. So we need to be in front of a screen a lot less. This one is a very interesting one because it means effectively that we are no longer having to be as involved in the management of the software and using the software as we had previously. So that one is a very interesting one. The other one as well is around the models themselves. So we're expecting in a couple of years that there will be industry or business specific models available. So for example, a AI model specifically for law, an AI model specifically for medicine. And that's because at the moment, one of the issues we've got with AI models is that they are not accurate enough in certain areas where there's high complexity. And the answer to that is models that will be specifically trained on specific areas like that, and they will be specialized in those areas. So that is the expectation there, that the way we will fix that and have more trust in AI and the way it works will be those specialized models. And also, a lot of the applications being created in a couple of years will be not created by humans. They will be created by an AI assistant. That's just the fact of life. It will happen. And Gardner here is expecting that 15% of new applications would be generated by AI without a human being in the loop at all, which worries me. The other thing, though, that's very interesting about 2027 is the legal elements of these things for us as employees of companies, because they are expecting that new employee contracts will include clauses for licensing and fair use of AI personas. So if I have an Areti bot that is able to attend meetings for me and make decisions, and my company is making money out of that, and then I leave, how does that work? Could I take my AI persona and give it to multiple companies and make a lot of money that way from multiple organizations? Who owns my AI persona? And all of those things will become a bit of a legal nightmare. But these are all things that we need to consider because if you are able to create an AI persona that can work that way, then there is legal implications to that and lots of interesting conversations to be had. So yeah, all really interesting things. And then 2028, so by then we're expecting that the large AI models that we're using right now will be actually abandoned, the ones built from scratch, purely because by then they are too expensive, they are complex, and compared to other things in AI that have happened in those 3 years, they are technical debt in terms of deployment. So that gives you an idea of why you need to keep an eye on the trends as well. Previously with software, we didn't expect to buy software and have it be technical debt within 2 or 3 years. But with AI, it very much likely will be. So we need to make our decisions based on that. And the other thing on top of that as well is that there will be job roles that are very likely to require low code or no code skills because for non-IT teams in this case, because the expectation is that a employee that isn't an IT employee should be able to create an agent for themselves or create an automated process, things like that. So the software capabilities of employees and the expectations for that will likely be higher by that point. The other thing as well that is likely to change the way we use software is what we call multimodal interfaces. And that means that we won't be interacting with software anymore using a mouse and a keyboard. We might be using our hands, we might be using our facial expressions, our eye movements, things like that, things that we're not using right now. So if you think about Copilots, we started typing into a box, but we can now speak to it. The idea is that we will be able to use the whole of our body and ourselves to interact with models and UIs in general. So that will be very interesting as well to see how that develops.
For accessibility, I think so. People with
Absolutely.
disability use and things.
Definitely, absolutely, yes. And machine customers is the other one. So for those that don't know what machine customers are, a machine customer is the idea that we as human beings will not be purchasing things anymore. An AI assistant will be doing it for us. So take, for example, your wardrobe. You will have had it scanned by your AI assistant, and the weather is getting colder and you don't have a scarf. Your AI assistant will very happily buy you a scarf. Things like that. So if you'll have a smart fridge and it knows where you store your milk, and when your milk gets below a certain weight, it will realize you have you're running low on milk, it will order you more milk. But the idea is that the decision as to what to buy is no longer yours as a human decision. You tell your AI model what your parameters are, and off it goes and decides on your behalf. And the prediction there is that because of this, 20% of websites will be obsolete because no one will be actually going to a website to buy something anymore necessarily, or some types of things. And 20% of the company's revenue will be likely coming from those machine customers in the future. So probably quite a few years away this, and likely not accessible to everybody as a technology when it comes, which is also a consideration. But very interesting that this is, you can see it being technically possible. So it will be interesting to see what happens, and how the machines are influenced by algorithms and things like that in terms of making their purchasing decisions. Once we get there, it all becomes very, very interesting. And also what happens if your AI model decides to buy you a Ferrari because it got hacked, or get you a big loan, or those kind of things. So we always need to think about the rogue agents in this as well. So all very interesting stuff. And if we look to the edge of the 5 years, because we can't go any further because that's too far away for AI predictions, synthetic data is very likely to be used in AI models much more than real data. Real data is very likely to be the exception rather than the rule by then. And we talked about those AI control systems. There is this term guardian agents being thrown around agents whose sole purpose is going to be that other agents are actually doing as they're told, and they are not going off on one and buying you a Ferrari. So monitoring, tracking, and overseeing the results of the other agents to make sure they are actually only doing what they're supposed to do, and just that. And who knows what else? We don't know yet. I mean, I heard the other day about necklaces that listen to everything happening around you and transcribe your day for you. So you can look back and look at something if you forget what someone said or what someone did, or which is crazy. And all these things are coming out at the moment. Yeah.
Be careful what you say then.
Yes, careful what you say. Check if anyone is recording
So I'm not
anything.
usually good at that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we like, and again, legally, like, will you have to say, I'm wearing a recording device? Will you have to say something like that in the future if you're using an AI agent? And it's very interesting because it's the other one that I heard about was AI agents in your ear that will listen to your conversation and will tell you what the right thing to say next is. So if you're in a very difficult, sorry.
I could do with that.
Yeah, if you're in a very
Situation.
difficult, if you're in a very difficult situation at work and you don't really know what to say, or you're having a tough conversation with someone, or you're on a very awkward date, or I don't know, it will be very interesting. So things like this will definitely be available. It will be very interesting to see what people do with it. So yeah, who knows? Who knows what else this is going to be used for? So you're either excited or terrified, or if you're me, a mixture of both about these things. So there you go. These are predictions. They may or may not happen the way Gardner expects, but that is where we are. So in summary, your adoption is effectively a burger, right? If you put the future predictions aside, when you're looking at the here and now and how to implement AI, you've got your bun, which is your human input at the top. You've got your yummy AI stuff, whether you bought it or built it. And then it all rests on your lettuce, which is your organizational culture. So the bun at the bottom is that human review at the end. So whatever you introduce, you need to make sure that at the end, you're actually monitoring it and evaluating whether it's doing what you wanted it to do. And my advice is to smother all of it with AI strategy and AI governance. You don't have to eat it all. That's the thing to remember. You can take little bites of this. You can try a burger out, and if it doesn't work for you, change it and get a new one. The idea is that you have to be okay with failing a bit because it's new technology. People have to adjust to using it as well. And it's all about finding the right use cases and what works for your organization and what the problems that you're trying to solve. So yes, keep in mind that AI adoption is a burger. That is it for the slides, but there's some useful links there, and I'll share the slides as well with yourself, Mitesh, to share with people. But yeah, that is me.
Thank you.
That
That's
is the
awesome.
challenges. That's the potential.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. I like the data governance stuff. So that's what you see. People put garbage in their data. They're going to get garbage out of it. But what I also thought is interesting is like, you can have a machine order something for you. We've been able to do that for many, many years. There's been talk of fridges that can order your food since the 90s or whatever, right? That's a long time probably before you were born. And things like, all a reseller, a clothing reseller would have to do is take your shoe size, right? And then they could provide you with the correct shoes that fit you, and they don't need any AI to do that, right? So the other thing to be careful of, is, I think, is applications or companies say, no, we've got this new AI feature. It's not actually AI. They're not actually using any intelligence. They're using just some clever, simple thing that's not actually AI. They're just using simple logic like that and calling it AI, right?
Yeah.
So it just
Yeah.
is little things like that to think about, I
My
think.
yeah, my
Very
favorite is
easy.
a AI enabled shampoo and conditioner that just
Bonkers. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like the
Yeah.
HD eyebrows
Yeah.
and all that
Don't
kind of
don't believe
nonsense.
the hype.
Just
Just yeah, check the
nonsense.
facts. Check the facts.
Yeah, yeah, just be careful. But yeah, no, that was awesome. Probably we could go on for ages about that stuff. But yeah, really interesting. Thank you. And you still haven't put the ketchup on my burger.
I have not put the ketchup. No, I think it's
Next
strategy
time.
and governance
Yeah.
has to come in one
We
go, I
we
think.
need to think of another component that we need to add so we can add ketchup to it.
Fair
But
enough.
yeah, no,
Okay.
thank you so much for that. It's brilliant, really interesting, and yeah, lovely. Anything else you want to add to that before we close?
No, just thank you for having me. And if anybody wants to
My
know more,
pleasure.
please connect on LinkedIn. Always happy
Yeah.
to chat. All things AI, Microsoft strategy, community, user groups, you name it. Yeah, please do reach out.
Okay. Thanks everyone, and thanks Areti for coming along and talking to us. See you all soon. Take care. Thank you.